Hi there, I'm excited to talk with you this week on plural literacy, what that means and how it affects our students in the classroom and what are the best practices teachers can employ to utilize these plural literacies and see that there's so many more ways that our students not in multiple languages can access literacy and develop thought and communicate that thought. So this week was fascinating to read, and I felt it was very helpful to my classroom. I teach actually adults in at the University of Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara, who are multilingual, who are developing more skills to move up into higher positions on campus in literacy. So I found this to be also transferable information, even though I'm dealing with adults, not children, that this was equally ever so helpful. So anyway, first the expanded view of literacy that we can take seriously and what the role of culture and gender play on the development of these literacies. So we should look for other areas of literacy. So some of the other areas of literacy are oral storytelling in their primary and secondary and subsequent languages. Music storytelling, I have found that I've been able to really incorporate a lot of language development with music, and some of my multilingual students who also play musical instruments have really brought that into the classroom and have developed other forms of literacy, making meaning in what we're learning and talking about in the workplace through music. Also, this week we read that a student used letter writing when they were engaging family members and friends back home and writing letters in their primary languages back home, and sometimes their subsequent languages to stay connected with people. Let's see, that lists should also count as literacy, and very young students are able to make lists for their family, for the grocery store or multiple uses around the house. Maybe how-to information or labeling pictures are all forms of literacy with the storytelling. And then tools that go way beyond the definition of literacy, again, photos, pictures, music, using social interaction through the whole entire process, not just through the editing process, but social interaction through the art of storytelling and getting ideas on paper. And even a student who has more experience in that second or subsequent language and a student who has less can work together to draw the meaning that they're trying to communicate out, and that more experienced student can help them get that on paper. And then very, very important is that the teacher isn't always the only audience that child or adult student has, because as we all know, as speakers and readers and writers and listeners, we need to hear and be heard from more than one source. And a teacher can be a very sterile source, especially if it's used all the time, and then true meaning doesn't always take place. So applying the perspective to expand the notions of biliteracy to plural literacy, Joanne Kleeker and Ophelia Garcia on page 219 talks about that, and she says languages develop as a result of the new media forms, that the personal technology that students and people today are able to have access to. And so new languages naturally developed from a merge of all of the different literacies and communication that are happening across many languages, and that teachers can change their values of plural literacy practices by making room for these plural literacy practices in the classroom, and not just employing it as an informal one. So I thought that was really interesting this week. And then recognizing the unique literacies of transnational learners. So through this, they could include cultural flexibility, a sense of global citizenship, nomadic awareness, like that student Vanessa that's described. She is in Allison Scarrett's journal, Languages and Literacy and Translocation. She experiences perspectives of transnational youth in the 2012 version, and she shows how Vanessa can both transact fruitfully back in her hometown in Mexico with friends and family while still maintaining and working on her own aspirations and affiliations back when she returns to the United States. So anyway, that's another one. And then as far as examining the role of sociocultural factors in the writing development choices of young writers, gender played a big role, culture played a big role, socioeconomic status was huge on that. And so some of the suggestions and tools that we as educators can employ to overcome all of that is once a student, his one was Pedro, once he was allowed to do writer's workshops in his own topics, use his own words, made it more social and worked with his peers and got to storytell with his peers, had an audience greater than the teacher, was able to accompany it with drawings. He took off, and all these practices he was already doing in the home transferred and developed even further in the classroom because all of a sudden there was room for that. So I thought that that was pretty profound. Thank you and have a nice week.